Hey guys, this is Darren from Manhattan Physical Therapy, and today I have Brian and Hazira with us, and we're going to talk about certain exercises and things that we can do to prep for your next run, for your next Spartan race, for your next Tough Mudder, and even if you're training for a marathon. So Brian, Hazira, what are some simple exercises that you guys give your clients in preparation for these kind of activities?
For sure, yeah. A lot of athletes come to us and they're curious about what exercise they can do to kind of enhance themselves in whatever their sport is. And the first thing I always explain to them is that what I'm gonna have them do is not really much different than what I'm gonna have any of my other clients do. So the first thing that we're gonna start with here today is gonna be a hip hinge, like a deadlift. And any of our clients in personal training, virtual training are gonna be doing this, but for an athlete specifically, definitely wanna target the hips, right? Like that's your powerhouse in your body. You go to the NFL, any professional sports organization, everything is pretty hip-focused movement. So starting out with the deadlift, which in my opinion, probably your opinion as well, is really like one of the kings of all movements.
Okay, so why do you go choosing deadlift versus starting off with a squat?
Yeah, for sure. So we're gonna start with the deadlift, especially with the athletes, and we're talking about runners and those athletes specifically. And a lot of times the hamstrings are pretty tight and they're not really kind of getting back into this range of motion, and they're already pretty knee dominant with all of their running. So this is more of a hip dominant movement. So a lot of times it can be a little bit just different for them, a little bit variety into their routine. So it's a good way to get them out of what they're used to doing, which is running and bending their knees, and more kind of hinging over at the waist.
Right, exactly. And then from our standpoint, on the physical therapy standpoint, we want to make sure that people are driving from their glutes and their hamstrings. Because a lot of people, like you mentioned earlier, are really quad dominant. Everything sits right out in front here and starts leading to some knee issues. But we need to start using the muscles, the big powerhouse muscles behind us to start driving these activities. So go ahead, show us how you would start with a progression, starting with the exercise, and let's go through some progressions of it.
So typically we'd start somebody here with the kettlebell deadlift. And first and foremost, we wanna make sure that they're able to hinge properly. So maybe even we'll turn you sideways so they can see your back here. So, first and foremost on the deadlift, they're gonna have them place their hands on their hips and make sure they kind of understand the concept of, pushing back. So Hazira, you're gonna push back through those hips, right? And their back is nice and straight here, and they're getting into those hips and glutes. And you can move your feet forward a couple inches, Hazira. And this would be a pretty good setup here on the deadlift. You can probably lower your chest a little bit, Hazira. Good, and so you can see we're loading up all through here, and this set what he was referencing, the back side of the body, so that posterior chain there, and we're gonna be driving through the hips and the glutes. So when you're ready, Hazira, you're just gonna basically take those hips and drive them straight forward and squeeze the glutes at the top. Yeah, with the kettlebell. Good, and then the eyes will be straight ahead at the top of the movement as well. So head will come up looking straight ahead and then pushing back into the hips.
Why do you give the cue of eyes straight ahead at the top of the movement?
Yeah, so if you notice even on her first repetition, so could you come up and could you look down like you did on the first rep? A little bit more. So kind of coming up and finishing in this position, we already know most of our lifestyles are gonna be centered around the computer, on our cell phones, and we're already kind of doing this. So the last thing we wanna do is put that under load and then reinforce it in the deadlift and just keep pulling their head forward. So this can really help kind of correct that. So come up and do it proper, and eyes straight ahead, and then you can kind of bring that back of your head into my hand a little bit and keep the chin down as well. Perfect. So that'd be a nice finish there.
Yeah, and in particular, as the weights get higher and higher and higher and higher, we really need to make sure that we're pulling up and back, because if you're pulling a good amount of weight, we don't want to be here at the top, or we don't want to be looking down here, making sure that we're nice and upright. So you mentioned it, the hip hinge. You gave a good cue of sticking back here. What should a patient be feeling, or what should a client be feeling when they're in that loaded position to know that they're doing it correctly? Yeah,
for sure. So when we do this with people, so even just do a bodyweight hinge, right, Hazira? So when we do this with people, if they're kind of coming over, so start coming over, and you can pause right there. And I ask them here, do you feel that in your hamstrings? And sometimes they'll say no. And that's the first red flag, okay, they must be either rounding their back, they're not pushing their weight back enough. So in that position, you feel your hamstrings, Hazira? So they should be grabbing at you, and then that's how we know we're turning on that posterior chain. And then at the top, of course, driving up through those hips and squeezing the glutes.
Okay, so making sure you're feeling the hamstrings at the bottom there, squeezing up and through as a good cue to make sure that they're doing it correctly and using the right set of muscles to get there.
For sure, and if you're down at the bottom and you feel a lot of lower back, then you're definitely not in the right position.
Gotcha. Okay, so let's go through some progressions of this.
So next step from the kettlebell deadlift, well, this is a little bit of an elevated one. We would normally go up in weight as they get stronger, which would eventually remove the yoga blocks because we don't need them to boost up the smaller weight. So we would go to there, and then we could possibly progress it to a single leg deadlift.
Gotcha.
So for the runners, again, going back to the athletes, having that stability and that stabilization for those uncertain movements when maybe they're kind of landing after something and you don't want that knee to have unwanted motion. So we could do a single leg RDL. So we'll move this out of the way. Now I would say, you can even start without the weight. Okay. I would say not a bad idea to start just body weight. And you're gonna wobble like when you start out.
Yeah.
I wobble still when I do them. So Hazira, let's try same motion and hinging over and extending that back leg back and feel that same.
Right leg or left leg?
Either one, whichever one you're comfortable with. Yup, nice. So we're looking, don't even go quite so low. You can stop right there at that parallel mark there with the torso there and then drive up. So we're looking for the same things that we're looking for with the kettlebell deadlift, right? It hasn't really changed. We're just adding that level of instability there. And you can even see she's kind of like shaking a little bit through it, as I do when I do.
Yeah.
How's that feel? You feel hip and hamstring? Yeah.
Gotcha. And from my standpoint in my profession, running is a series of single leg activities. So thus the single leg deadlift and the single leg RDL is really, really important because we have to drive. We don't run with 2 feet at a time. We run from one foot over the other. So making sure that we're driving through hamstrings and glutes from single leg bound to single leg bound is really important. And that's why this exercise is really, really important for our running population.
Yeah, I mean, I couldn't agree more. And for me, very interesting. If you have somebody who has, a troubling knee problem or something, I know when I switch to my left side, because I do neglect these as I have my clients do them, which they should. When I switch to the left side, which is my knee that bothers me, it's a huge world of difference and I'm struggling a lot. So if you're a runner with like a naggy knee or like some type of injury, and they'll experience it if they do physical therapy or something of that sort, you're gonna notice a huge difference side to side, and that's probably why you have that pain.
Exactly.
It's probably weaker or you're overloading that side.
Exactly. Strength asymmetries are being a big thing. Sometimes they creep up on us and we really don't know. And then you do a single leg activity, with either leg, and then it's like, oh shoot, I am actually weaker on one side versus the other. Yeah. And that could be, over a period of time and over a period of mileage can then cause some issues and constant compensations going down the line. So we went over an elevated RDL with the kettlebell. We've gone over a single leg RDL. What other progressions do you have?
I would say the highest level of progression with like a hinge would be a swing, which is gonna be taking that hinge pattern and then adding a level of like explosiveness to it. So you wanna give a nice demonstration of a swing. So for the swing, it's a lot of similar movement patterns. We're not gonna rush into it just yet. We're gonna make sure first and foremost that the bell is about arm's length away from them. And we definitely don't wanna be loading this until you've mastered the hinge, because that's where things can get a little ugly. So let's hinge over as if we were gonna do a deadlift, Hazira. Don't worry about even picking it up, but let's get a little lower into that hinge. Awesome. And you want it close enough so you want it within their limb reach there. There we go. So let's kind of angle it to start. Don't even worry about swinging just yet. Okay? And the chin will be down. Now, ideally at this phase, you would be at a little bit of a bigger bell, which will bump it up a little bit higher for you. So she has to get a little low here.
Gotcha, yeah.
But that's going to be where we're going to start. You're going to get that back nice and straight, Hazira. Kind of load those hips. Good. Chin will be down a little bit. And then basically the first move of it is to hike that kettlebell back through the legs. Perfect. And then snapping the hips at the top, squeezing the glutes at the top. And now we've got a ballistic form of the deadlift that we did earlier today.
Awesome. Yeah, and these exercises are really good for power development, right? We have to make sure that, of course, we can do for single rep for strength, but power over a period of time. That's where the kettlebell swing is going to be really, really helpful to really get power through those hamstrings and glutes, like we've been talking about already before. So, kind of different question. Different kinds of kettlebell swings. There's an American version, a Russian version, pros, cons, differences between the two.
Yeah, I mean, there's definitely some progressions through it. I mean, recently I started tinkering around playing with the full swing, American swing, kind of reaching it all the way up. I would just say with the swing, again, going into that ballistic nature of it, you want to make sure that whatever you're doing, you have full accessibility of that range of motion. So if you're reaching overhead and you know that your shoulders are super tight, you're potentially putting yourself at risk for injury. So with my clients, a lot of them, if they have tight shoulders, I'm not going up into that.
Right.
I'm going to keep them safe down here. And then if somebody has some type of, back issue, although you could probably do a standard swing if everything is set up perfectly, I mean, doing some type of single arm and loaded one and putting that back through that rotational movement might be a little bit of a risk. So I might just keep him at a 2-arm swing on that.
Gotcha. So now for someone, a kettlebell swing, let's say someone's having difficulty getting the patterning down of driving through their hips and they find, oh, my back is doing weird things, it's feeling it. What would be a simple regression of a one-step regression of the kettlebell swing?
Yeah, I would say with the swing, it's definitely a tricky one. It's similar to the deadlift where when they get down into that position, if they're not feeling their hamstrings, we're kind of going to run into the same issues, right? So a couple things. Sometimes you can just bump up the kettlebell because they just can't access that range, and you might have them at too small of a belt.
Bump up the kettlebell, you mean by lifting it higher off the ground?
Similar to like what we did with earlier, like maybe just give them a little bit of a booster because they don't have that hamstring flexibility to get down to it. And she was even struggling a little bit to get into that. So there we go. And now we're already in a little bit more of a comfortable position. So you can even hike it from there. The block might move a little. Perfect.
Yeah. So changing the starting point so they don't have to go so far deep into it.
The starting point, that can be the hardest point of getting into it. But if they're having trouble getting into it, I might have to recheck where I'm at in my program and regress them even back a little further and focus on opening up the hamstrings a little bit.
Gotcha. Okay, great.